back to the Leroy Glover Podcast. Last time we talked about how success follows the same learning curve as a toddler learning to walk. They crawl, stumble, fall, but they keep going until they master it. But what happens next? They learn to speak. And just like walking, learning to speak with intention can shape your reality. The power of words, what we say shapes who we become. Think about it. When a toddler learns to talk, they don't get it right the first time. They start with sounds. They mimic. They make mistakes. But over time, their words become clearer. And then something amazing happens. They learn to ask for what they want. The same thing applies to us as adults. If you constantly say, I'm not good enough or I'll never succeed, you're reinforcing that belief. But if you start saying, I'm learning, I'm growing, I can do this, you begin to shift your mindset. Just like a toddler practicing the ABCs, your words shape your world. Why some people stay stuck in silence? They're afraid of sounding foolish. They don't believe in their own voice. They let others' opinions dictate their confidence. But think about a toddler. They don't care how they sound. They keep trying until they're understood. Success works the same way. If you want to grow, you have to speak your goals into existence. How do achievers use words differently? They speak with intention. They choose words that empower them. They use affirmations. They program their minds for success. They ask for help, guidance, and opportunity. Ask a successful entrepreneur how they got where they are. They won't say, I never told anyone my ideas. They spoke up. They shared their vision. They made their intentions very clear. Your voice is a tool. Use it. So, what can you do right now? Write down a personal mantra, something simple like, I'm capable, I'm growing, I'm on my way. Practice speaking your goals out loud every morning. Not just in your head. Say them out loud. Ask for what you need. Whether it's advice, guidance, or an opportunity, your voice, use it. Just like walking, learning to speak with confidence takes practice. Take 1 minute to write down a goal. Say it out loud, like you already own it. And please, thank you, and please comment below. What's one phrase you're going to start using daily? Thank you for tuning in to the Leroy Glover Podcast. You weren't meant to stay silent. Please speak up, speak with purpose, and I'll see you in the next episode.
Hey everybody, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're looking at words.
Ooh.
And how much power they really have to shape the world around us and even our own realities. we'll be taking a look at an episode of Speak Your Success into Existence.
Okay.
The Leroy Glover Podcast.
I've heard of this one.
Yeah, and it's a really interesting one. Because Leroy uses this really vivid analogy comparing learning to speak with intention to a toddler learning to walk.
Yeah, I remember that part.
And, as someone who has a toddler, it's kind of amazing to watch that process unfold.
It really is.
They start with these almost incoherent sounds and babbling.
Yeah, just like noises.
Right, and then they start trying to mimic the sounds that they hear around them. And of course, there are a lot of mistakes along the way.
Sure.
Over time, their words become clearer, their sentences get more complex, and eventually they're able to articulate their needs and wants and ask for what they want.
Yeah, and then they never stop talking.
Right, which is, I think, the point that Leroy is trying to make here. That if we apply that same kind of persistence and focus to the way that we use our words, we can actually shape our reality. Because, he talks a lot about the power of self-talk and affirmations and how, the things that we say to ourselves repeatedly actually reinforce our beliefs and shape our mindsets.
You know what I think is really interesting about that is that the reverse is true too, right?
What do you mean?
Like negative self-talk.
Yeah.
It can be just as powerful if you're constantly telling yourself that you're not good enough or that you're going to fail. Well, you're basically setting yourself up for that outcome.
Yeah.
But if you can flip the script and start using positive affirmations, even if you don't believe them at first, that can start to shift your mindset and actually create real change.
So it's like you're literally programming your brain
Exactly.
for success or for failure based on the words that you're using.
Yeah. And I think Leroy gives some really compelling examples in the episode.
Yeah, he does. He talks about the difference between saying I'm not good enough
Yeah.
versus I'm learning and I'm growing. And just that subtle shift in language can have a huge impact on your self-perception and your motivation.
It makes me think about this idea of manifestation or speaking things into existence.
Yeah.
Which has become really popular in recent years.
Yeah, for sure.
But I wonder if there's a danger in taking that too far.
What do you mean?
What happens when we focus so much on speaking our desires into reality that we kind of lose sight of the importance of taking action?
Oh, yeah.
There's a reason why they say actions speak louder than words.
So true. I mean, it's one thing to say I want to start a business or I want to write a book, but it's another thing entirely to actually put in the work and make it happen.
Totally agree.
And I think that's where a lot of people get tripped up. We get caught up in this toxic positivity,
Right.
where they think that just by saying something out loud, that it's going to magically manifest into their lives.
Yeah, and I think it's important to acknowledge that there are real obstacles and challenges.
Absolutely.
That we all face in life. And sometimes things just don't work out the way that we hope they will.
Yeah.
No matter how much we might try to speak it into existence.
Right. But even if we acknowledge the importance of action, there's still this question of why do some people hold back
Yeah,
from even voicing their goals and aspirations in the first place?
that's a great question.
I mean, we've all been there where we have this dream or this goal, but we're too afraid to tell anyone about it
For sure.
for fear of judgment. Or, maybe we don't even fully believe in ourselves.
Yeah, and Leroy touches on that too in the podcast. He talks about how sometimes we let the opinions of others dictate our own confidence.
Oh, yeah.
And we end up silencing our own voices because we're afraid of what other people might think.
Yeah, it's we're giving away our power
Exactly.
to other people. And I think that's one of the biggest takeaways from this episode for me, is that we need to reclaim that power and start speaking our truth.
But it's easier said than done, right?
Totally. Fear is a powerful emotion, and it can be really hard to overcome.
But going back to that toddler analogy, they don't seem to have that same fear.
Oh my gosh, they are fearless.
They're just I'm going to say this thing until you understand me.
Exactly. And they don't care if it sounds silly or if they make mistakes. They just keep trying until they get their point across.
That's that pure persistence.
It really is.
Yeah.
And I think if we could all tap into a little bit of that toddler energy when it comes to our goals and our dreams, we would be unstoppable.
I love that.
Okay, so we've talked about the power of self-talk and the importance of overcoming fear. But the episode also makes this really interesting point about how successful people use their words differently.
Okay, how so?
Well, Leroy interviews a bunch of different entrepreneurs and athletes and artists.
Yeah.
And he finds that there are some common threads in the way that they use language.
Like what?
Well, for one thing, they're very intentional with their words. They don't just like blurt out whatever comes to mind. They really think about the message that they're trying to convey, and they choose their words carefully.
Oh, that makes sense.
They also tend to use a lot of empowering language
Yeah.
and affirmations, and they're not afraid to ask for what they need.
So they're basically putting all of these principles into practice.
Exactly. They're walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
Right.
But thinking about all of this makes me wonder
What's that?
if there's a danger in overthinking every single word that we say.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Like, could it actually stifle our spontaneity and authenticity?
I see what you mean.
Like, if we're constantly trying to craft the perfect sentence, are we really being ourselves?
That's a really interesting question, and I think there's a balance to be struck here. Like, on the one hand, it's important to be mindful of the words that we're using and to make sure that they're aligned with our goals and our values. But on the other hand, we don't want to become so obsessed with perfection that we lose our ability to just be ourselves.
So it's like finding that sweet spot
Yeah.
between intentionality and authenticity.
I think that's a great way to put it.
Okay, so let's get practical here. How can we actually start applying all of this to our own lives? Well, Leroy gives us some really actionable steps in the episode.
Okay, I'm all ears.
He suggests that we start by writing down a personal mantra.
Oh, like a little affirmation.
Yeah, exactly. It's something
Yeah.
like, I am capable. I am growing. I am on my way.
I like that.
And then he recommends that we practice speaking our goals out loud every morning,
Yeah.
even if it feels weird at first. Just getting those words out into the universe can start to shift our energy and our mindset.
Yeah.
And then finally, he emphasizes the importance of asking for what we need.
It's huge.
Whether it's advice, guidance, opportunities, we need to stop being afraid to put ourselves out there and ask for help.
I think one of the reasons why this episode resonated with me so much is because it reminds us that this is a skill.
Speaking with intention.
Yes, it's not something that we're necessarily born with, but it's something that we can develop with practice.
It's like learning a new language.
Yeah?
The language of self-empowerment and manifestation. And just like learning any new language, it takes time and effort. And there will be mistakes along the way. But the more we practice, the more fluent we become. And the more power we have to shape our reality.
I love that analogy.
So, before we wrap up here, I want to leave you with one final thought. What is one goal that you're going to start speaking into existence today?
Ooh, good question.
Maybe it's something small, maybe something big. But whatever it is, write it down, say it out loud, and start taking action towards it.
Awesome advice.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive
This was a good one.
into the power of words. We'll see you next time.